I just found out your patient isn't taking these FDA-approved gummy vitamins.
He came in here once for advice, and I have no idea what he does outside this hospital.
The FDA just confiscated 20,000 Mexican gummies from his apartment. Limon Wine Naranja. And they say he's distributing them to his friends through buyers clubs.
Actually, I've been reading a lot about buyers clubs. They've been having some success eliminating symptoms with some of these new drugs.
Yeah, but I don't care about how they feel. I care about the regulatory system. I care about special interests like the Spurt Corporation. They wrote the legislation, they played by the rules, and they manufactured these worthless, potentially harmful gummies. Now grab some gummies and let's get to work.
Sir.
Well, these are pretty good. They taste like they're approved. Hello, I'm Andrew Heaton, and you're watching EconPop, the show that sifts through the haystack of popular culture to find the needle of economics within, and then stabs you with it. Today we're talking about the Oscar-winning film Dallas Buyers Club.
Meds and the treatments are free, but membership is $400 a month. All right, you're gonna have to sign a waiver. We are not responsible for the drugs that we give you. You croak, you croak. It's not our problem, it's yours.
Dallas Buyers Club takes AIDS and economics, quite possibly the two most dismal subjects imaginable, and combines them into a surprisingly good film. I say good film, but I wouldn't recommend watching it on date night, unless whoever you're seducing hates the Food and Drug Administration, in which case, pop a couple of FDA-approved aphrodisiacs and settle in for a fun evening. Matthew McConaughey plays a skeleton, who unfortunately contracts HIV. There are drugs that can extend his life, but unfortunately they're not yet approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. So he has to go to Mexico, where they're legal, to save himself. He then realizes that he can buy them in bulk and sell them in Dallas, turning a profit.
Hang in there, we'll get you hooked up shortly.
And that's largely what entrepreneurship is, seeing a need and innovating a way to fill it, and making some money in the process. Note that in the film, the Dallas Buyers Club isn't a nonprofit entity. Matthew McConaughey's character is making money, but by doing so, he's simultaneously providing life-saving drugs to other HIV patients. His financial gain is, nonetheless, a social benefit.
You treating these people?
Oh, they're treating themselves.
With what?
Vitamins, peptide T, DDC, anything but that poison you're hawking.
All too often, people think that making money is at odds with helping people. That's not the case. Think about Steve Jobs, who made billions developing mobile phones smaller than a brick. Or the Sports Illustrated zero-G bikini photo shoot of Kate Upton. That was a for-profit venture, but my life certainly improved for it. That said, there's a nice moment in the movie where an older gay couple gives McConaughey a house. Not to get rich themselves, but to help what he's doing.
No, don't try and con me.
The house is free. We want to help.
Well, that's good news.
Unlike McConaughey, they're engaging in private charity, voluntarily giving money to help others. Entrepreneurship and charity go hand in hand. A free society isn't sheer, unbridled Darwinian greed. It's also people voluntarily helping people. So how does the government fit into this? Well, pretty poorly in the Dallas Buyers Club. The Food and Drug Administration makes it difficult for McConaughey to run his business. In fact, it's so restrictive that it nearly kills him by denying him the drugs he needs, all allegedly for his own benefit.
People are dying. And y'all are all up there afraid that we're going to find an alternative without you. See, the pharma companies pay the FDA to push their product. All right? So no, they don't want to see my research.
All right.
I don't have enough cash in my pocket to make it worth their while.
It's enough.
Consider this. You're an FDA bureaucrat. There's a drug which might potentially save 100,000 lives, but there's a possibility that it might kill 2,000 people. If you approve the drug and 2,000 people die, you're going to get in trouble. You might be fired or even jailed. But if you don't approve the drug, no one ever knows. That's what we call an opportunity cost. It's also apparent that in the film, the FDA and Big Pharma are friends with benefits. This is one of the problems with large government agencies, the threat of crony capitalism. Crony capitalism is regular capitalism's inbred cousin. It's where the government passes out favors to favorite companies and hurts little ones that don't have connections. One major way this happens is through regulatory capture. This is when large companies wind up writing the legislation they're meant to be regulated by. And they use the opportunity to carve markets for themselves and to squash competitors. Let's use something less scary than AIDS as an example. Let's say cupcakes. Imagine that someone dies from cupcake poisoning in Meth Shack, Virginia. Seemingly helpfully, the biggest cupcake manufacturer in America goes to Congress with an army of lobbyists and says it agrees with Washington. There needs to be more regulation. For instance, every cupcake factory should have an anti-terrorism specialist, a certified electrician, a nutritionist on staff, and lots of other safeguards. It turns out the big company already has all of these things. It's making a cookie-cutter shaped law around itself. Tiny cupcake companies that can only afford 1 or 2 employees can't comply with these new regulations, and they go out of business, which is great news for the big cupcake conglomerate.
If I have a court order permitting us to confiscate any and all non-FDA approved drugs or supplements.
One of the things that I find interesting about the film is that Matthew McConaughey's character is not particularly likable. At the beginning of the film, he's a bigot. He's a homophobe. You can infer he's probably a racist. He's a hard drinker. There are a lot of reasons not to like him as a person. But throughout the film, he develops as a character and as a human being. By the end of the film, he's very close to many gay people that he would have detested at the beginning of the film. And a lot of that came through the interaction that he had with them through trade. Commerce brings unlike people together all the time. And this doesn't just happen on a one-to-one level. This happens on a macro level as well. Entire nations trade with one another and are thus less likely to go to war with one another. It's no longer in their economic self-interest, but beyond that, the people in them get to know each other, and thus they're humanizing one another. This even happens on a personal level in my case. For instance, I used to hate the Welsh, and they know why. But I started trading cupcakes with them, and now I'm on excellent terms with the entire country. Glenna Festianog Glimini Snicket to my Welsh friends, or hello, as you'd say in Welsh.